Welcome to Justin Lou Talk to You. Grab your crew because this year it's new that we talk to you. Hey everybody, welcome to Joss and Lou Talk to You Renewed.
Yeah, we should call it that. Make a new logo that's all like triple X-y.
Triple X.
Well, like that triple X isn't like but like the what's his name? The guy who's big and bald and he's in the car movies. And
Vin Diesel?
Yeah. The
You can
X.
remember he's in the car movie because his last name is Diesel.
Oh my God, I never thought of that.
And a VIN, like a vehicle identification number.
Barney was born. That's why they're so good. Because he's so good.
He's meant for this role.
Yeah. God put him on this earth to make car movies.
You know what other roles people are meant for?
What?
Vampires. Okay, so we're going to talk about Twilight and Nosferatu because they're both vampire movies, and we watched Nosferatu on Christmas, and we watched Twilight on New Year's Eve at the Last Picture House, the newest theater in town.
It's a cool new
Watch
theater.
out for that cool kid. He's got a cool theater.
Cool kid. Who's the cool kid?
Last Picture House.
Oh, okay.
And he has theaters inside of him.
Oh my God.
It's a horror film.
What the fuck? That sounds like a very like.
It's very Willy Wonka coded.
I was gonna say it sounds very French. It's like, what's it about? It's about this boy who has he has movie theaters inside him. There you go inside and see movie theater inside the boy. Do you have what it takes? It's like, what?
I'd watch that.
Yeah, that's a fucking cool premise. It's like he's like mouth. Let's not get into the details. The details of how you enter the boy to be in the movie. Also, you said movie theaters, so he's got
multiple
theaters inside him.
Yeah, there's multiple screens.
Oh, I was thinking multiple buildings. Like you go inside of him, and it's like this, like.
I would say that there's 2 theaters inside of the Last Picture House.
Yes, I guess that's fair. Yeah, there's theater houses.
Theater can mean multiple things.
Okay.
You know,
it could be the boy, apparently.
Some infinities are bigger than other infinities.
Right, yes.
So there's 2 theaters inside of the Last Picture House, which is also a theater.
Okay.
Like as a genre of venue.
All right, sounds good.
It's like Kleenex.
What?
You know.
You lost me, but it's okay. Like branding, like Kleenex is
But
I know
then like tissues.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And then there's also a lot of tissues in the box of tissues.
Yeah, I see. Like, I think
we promised ourselves we wouldn't go off the rails immediately, and it took us like how long have we been recording? We've woken our orange cat up.
It's like 3 minutes.
Okay, so it was speed run immediately off the rails.
Hold on, I gotta get out. I gotta check off the list. Boy with theaters inside of him. Check. Theaters equal theaters. Equals tissues. Theaters is to theaters as tissue is to Kleenex. Okay, check.
Do you have any? Wait,
Nope.
we have to wait till. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, she's falling.
She's falling. She's trying to clean herself, and we know how loud she is when she cleans herself.
Yeah,
My God.
one of our cats is a very loud cleaner.
I don't know how she's so small, but it just echoes like. Oh my God! Please be careful. You just don't
falling off the sofa.
Yeah, she's just so snoozy that she doesn't have her balance yet.
She gets so snoozy. So, anyways, yeah. So for Christmas, we saw Nosferatu.
Yes. Okay. So let me set the scene.
Yeah.
3 years ago.
Okay. 3 years ago.
Nosferatu was, in production
Oh,
or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And I saw a long ass time ago that Nosferatu was getting a Christmas release.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's interesting. A Robert Eggers movie getting a Christmas release. This is going to be one of the most interesting Christmas movie going days in a long time. Because I was like, Eggers movies are not exactly like crowd pleasers.
Yeah, normally
and stuff.
Christmas movies are like The Last Showman or whatever. where
Yes,
it's
they're
like,
more hopeful, or they're comedies,
Yeah.
or big action, family-friendly action movies
Yeah.
and stuff. But Nosferatu got second at the box office, which is very exciting. And it's reached a bigger market than I, was anticipating at all.
Yeah.
And because I remember last year, I guess we're going to be like in this tiny little theater next year, like watching this movie. And I don't know. I just also thought like how much confidence they had in the project, to do like such a big day, like Christmas Day. And then they were right though, because I think a lot of people were really excited about it.
Yeah, for me, because I don't keep up with like that stuff as well. Like the
Yeah, I'm better at keeping up with like
releases and when and all that.
Yeah.
And for me, that moment hit when we found out they were going to be doing the popcorn container, because that's like the new trend with movies that we've like been like made fun of. Where like I think Scream was the first one.
Scream was the first one, and I did get the Ghostface bucket, but because I was going to use it as a planter.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah.
Until we got cats, and then I only have spider plants now, and not very many of them, because one of our other cat, Juniper, or Juju for sure, she is obsessed with spider plants.
She loves eating plants.
And she, like, if I brush up against a spider plant and she's around, she is like obsessed for the next hour.
Yeah.
Give me that plant.
Give me that plant.
Well, and spider plants are slightly psychoactive to cats, so
Hell yeah.
it makes it irresistible.
Oh yeah.
Anyways,
But yeah, so there was like the Nosferatu coffin popcorn bin, and I was like, it's like such a weird fucking moment, because like Eggers has been, the art house, quote unquote. Like it's very.
he's like when we have Hereditary, popcorn tin,
Oh shit! What would Okay, this would never happen. For two reasons. One, it's very inappropriate. Two, it's a spoiler. But what if the popcorn tin was the head of the daughter?
That's what I was thinking. That would make the most sense, I think.
And it's like upside down, so like you're eating out of the neck.
That's creativity there, my love.
That's. But like, spoilers. And then like The Northman, which was like his bigger movie.
Yeah.
Like bombed. It didn't do. It did better as it went on with streaming and stuff, but like in theaters, it did not do well.
Well, it's also was such a big budget production. Also, it came out a lot closer to like the theaters reopening and stuff.
Yeah, it was definitely like a victim of like people weren't quite ready to.
And so there's those two forces,
and also like people just have been going to. It seems like going to movies a lot less. So
yes, I think especially since COVID, I think this is why Nosferatu is giving me hope, but we'll make that into a different discussion.
But yeah, it was crazy. It was like, they're doing a popcorn bucket for this movie. What is happening?
Yeah.
And then then it just kept getting more and more buzz. And it was like, oh, they're marketing this to everybody.
Yeah.
And to our surprise, people were like, fuck yeah, let's see Nosferatu. And then people were like, that was great.
Yeah, and they had a good time.
Yeah.
I have been so shocked and like pleasantly surprised. Like, thank you. Like, yay, I'm so happy that everyone loves Nosferatu.
Because like going into it, there was like the big build. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, oh, this is going to. My pessimistic side was like, this is going to be a thing where it's like they're throwing all this money behind marketing it, and people are going to go see it, and it's going to be an Eggers movie, and people are going to be like off-put and like, oh, what the fuck was that? Because
I thought it was going to be like a Spring Breakers moment.
Yeah, where people went to see like, what are these Disney celebrities up to?
Yeah, they're doing their first adult film.
Yeah.
And then it was a Harmony Korine movie. And I remember, like, I was one of those people, but then I went to see it. I was like, I wasn't put off by it because I remember the theater experience so well. Where, like, everyone was so upset after the movie. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that's definitely not what I expected, but it was kind of interesting.
Right. I worked in a movie theater when that came out.
Yeah.
And that was so much fun. Because, like, I, like, would ask people, what did you think? And, like, people were so mad.
Yeah.
Like, we got a lot of people who were like, I want my money back. What the fuck was that? And it's like, have you seen Gumbo? It's like, what is that?
And I was, what is that? But at least I had
Yeah.
an open mind, so I pride myself on that.
Which, by the way, it's very, I think, go watch Spring Breakers. It's an underappreciated movie.
It was A24's like first
Yeah,
big thing.
that was their first, that was like their, yeah. And I think go into it realizing maybe there doesn't need to be any good guys in a movie. Maybe James Franco, real life villain, is also a villain in the movie, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, but then like watching when we saw, because we went to go see it on Christmas with some friends, and we like, I remember in the theater watching it, and it's not, my big fear with Eggers is he's like, his whole thing is like he's obsessed with making it feel as much like the real time as it can. Mm-hmm. Like The Witch.
He's obsessed.
The Witch and The Lighthouse are both like, people talk like how they talked then. And it makes it a little bit hard to follow it because we don't talk like that anymore.
Captions are great. I recently saw The Lighthouse in IMAX. It was my first time seeing it. And I think captions would have helped a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
with my experience. But I also don't know if I would have loved it on its own.
Either way. Yeah, because
I think if I had captions, I would feel a lot better, though.
Probably. Because you already have some audio issues with
It depends on the dialogue. That's why certain artists I gravitate towards more. Or like I really like SZA's music, but she sings, I think it's called like cursives. I think she has been accused of, or her style
Sure,
is.
right,
I don't know.
Yeah.
She does cursive singing, and like Halsey is like that too. But I have to kind of, oh my God, Orange, you're so loud. I have to kind of like read the lyrics like as I'm listening to the music, or like, after the first couple times, because I have no fucking clue what they're saying, even though they make really good music. But for me, it's so hard to understand what they're saying.
Right.
And so you add like the sea guys, sea workers.
Right. Yeah.
Sailors. That's what I'm looking for.
Sea workers. Sea jobmen.
You add them like in that like talk, and it was like, it's so much, and they're all mad at each other, or they're mumbling or whatever, and everything's crazy, and like I appreciate it, but like I had no idea, like, because I couldn't tell what they were fucking saying, it took a lot of the enjoyment out of it, because
Right.
I couldn't follow it that often.
Yeah.
Like I had to follow it on visual clues alone, which isn't like the worst, but it wasn't my ideal.
Right. Yeah. And that's fair. And that's why, like,
We also saw it in IMAX recently.
it was so cool.
IMAX has been re-releasing movies, and A24 had a whole series.
Yeah.
And so I just want to let people know that if you are, near an IMAX theater, to check out like the IMAX website or places. They're playing 7 now, and I really want to see it, but it starts at fucking 10:30 at night. And I'm like, what? Okay.
Anyways. We're not that kind of late up night people. But and Northman was not like that, because I think it would have had to have been like in a whole other language.
Yeah.
And also I think because it was a more studio movie, like A24, he was working with a studio and distributor that's going to be a little bit more, like, he didn't have final cut on the movie. So
Yeah.
The Northman wasn't like that in terms of like such harsh dialogue. And I think Nosferatu wasn't either. But I was worried about that aspect of like, it's just sometimes those movies are hard to digest for people who are like, and it's like, it's not fair to be sold a Christmas spooky vampire movie that's like a mass appeal movie, and then you go in there and like imagine if everyone was talking like Bill Skarsgård, people would be like, what the fuck is happening? But watching it, I was concerned because it's like, it doesn't feel like what you normally get with current bigger studio films. Like it moves slower. It takes there's a lot of aspects of it that I thought like, oh, people are going to be off put by this.
Yes.
and people, as for the most part, have been fucking loving it.
Yeah, a lot of people that like I've interacted, like a lot of people like it a lot, and it's done really. It got number 2 at the box office against a Disney and movie, Mufasa, and it was above Sonic that like weekend, like Christmas Day. You know,
yeah, it was, and there was like a biopic.
Yeah, there was Complete Unknown. Well. Yeah, biopics are, they work for a lot of different ages,
right.
And a lot of people like biopics.
Yeah, especially when you got Shyamalan, what's his name?
Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah, Timothy Chalamet. So that was cool. It was very exciting that like it did so well and people loved it. It's a movie that like coming out of it, I was like, I felt a lot the same way I felt about Northman, which was I love the filmmaking so much. I wish I cared about the characters more.
Okay.
And thinking about it more, it's grown on me. I think it's also, hey, it is fair to have a feeling about a movie. This happens all the time.
Yeah, when you first walk out and then those feelings change as you sit on it.
As you process it. Because it's people don't think movies are like an active thing. I think they think of them as passive things. And I think it is an active thing. And I think it's a good movie will stick with you after. Mm-hmm. And like, it's a movie I'd like to see again.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll get a chance to see it in the theater again, but
I might be willing to see it again.
Yeah.
Over time, it's grown on me too.
Yeah, it's grown on me, and I think
especially because it's not really my type of movie, but it's grown on me as a movie to see.
Yeah, I still feel like I'm chasing that high of The Witch.
Yes, I was about to say that if The Witch was in theaters right now, though, I'd be watching The Witch first.
Yeah, I know that like because I think like with Eggers like the filmmaking like. I know that he personally hates the way The Witch looks because he is a film nerd. Like it must be on film.
He's one of those guys, yeah.
And The Witch was shot digitally because just the budget and also because he wanted to do natural light. Mm-hmm. And it's so much harder to do natural light with film.
Yeah.
So The Witch was digitally shot, and he's like, I've seen videos where he's like, I can't even look at it. It's like, calm the fuck down. It looks good. Stop being a baby. But I understand that.
He hasn't gone to.
What?
He hasn't seen. I'm trying to think of some Ryan's World movie or whatever.
Go watch Mufasa and feel better about. But. And I get it. Like, that's good. Like, you should look back at your prior art and be like, oh, it's not, whatever. Either way. But The Witch, like, to me, filmmaking is amazing. But, like, also story and characters. Like, I give a shit about Thomason way more than I give a shit about the characters in his movies going forward.
There was a character in Nosferatu named Thomas, and I was like, Thomason, Eggers cinematic universe. They're somewhat similar names. Sorry, I'm just being obnoxious, which is my favorite thing to do, by the way.
But I still love it. It was great. I loved it. It was great that everyone loved it.
Yeah, I was surprised too because when I was in the movie, I was sitting next to the people. There was 3 seats to the right of me, and each of those 3 seats were filled by someone who were just reacting in ways that I was like, they're gonna hate this movie, and they were just being a little obnoxious for my taste at a theater.
Yeah.
But I also kind of have quite
low tolerance.
I have a bit of a low tolerance. They were doing like, I don't know what it is, but like people just feel the need, like I have to scroll my phone right now in the theater. Yeah. And like they won't even be looking at anything. I think they're just like bored or their attention span's so short.
I really think that there is a compulsion now for people of like, I need to like feel the glass under my, like, I think there's just a compulsion of like, you're so wired to just feel that feeling.
Yeah.
That people like impulsively just do it.
Yes.
It's like when we first started getting cell phones, I remember like
the buzz in your pocket.
Yeah, the fake buzz. You would feel like you could swear that your phone buzzed with a notification.
And it didn't. It was a ghost.
Yeah. But there was like this compulsion to check it.
Yes.
And I think there's now a compulsion not just to check your phone, but to like get on it and scroll it and unlock it. And
yeah, well, because it's now associated with such good, like almost regulatory feelings.
Yeah.
If you like break down like the dopamine psychology.
that's the whole thing.
It's not my expertise, but like if you listen to anyone that is in, also people please know that your phones and the things on your phones are psychologically designed to keep you on your phone as long as possible.
Yes.
Anyways, back to Nosferatu.
Also, side note, if you're somebody who does have that compulsion, at least just so you know, your phone has screen brightness settings. Turn the brightness down.
Yeah.
Don't pop it out and then have this bright ass fucking beam of light.
Or please just leave the theater if you're going to go on your phone. I guess that's a lot to ask nowadays.
The guy.
I love the people that make the tent.
Yeah, I was gonna say the guy next to me in Nosferatu, he had I think it's his coat, and he built a little tent, and he kept like going in his tent, like, well, the phone's in the tent, so it's like, yeah, I guess that's true for everyone else in the theater, but I'm next to you, man, I can still see it.
It's one thing if the theater's empty and you're all the way in the back, and everyone is in front of you,
right?
And your phone's. I guess that's fine. I guess if you're in the theater all the time, like we used to be, but it's just also like, dude, like going to a movie is so expensive now.
Yeah, why
get off your phone.
Yeah.
Stop taking pictures of the title screen to like share on your Instagram.
Right, yes.
Like we know, just take a picture of your ticket in the lobby.
Right. Or take a picture of the fucking credits or something.
Yeah, credits would be great.
They should. Okay, you know what? This is what movies will start doing.
Okay.
There should be like every movie starts with some sort of like Instagram title sequence.
Yeah,
where it's
that's
like
where we're going.
Yeah, like the how like every restaurant now or every place now has like a little area where they threw some bullshit up.
Yeah,
like take your picture over here. That's what movies need to do now.
They do that in trailers. They have like the mini trailer before the trailer starts. We need to capture their attention in the next 3 seconds, or they'll never see this movie.
Which is probably true. That there has to be that little pre-trailer, because otherwise people are like, "What's this green band I'm going on my phone?" Anyways, and but it also like when something like Nosferatu, it's like the whole point is I'm getting transferred to this old-timey world with the monster. It's old.
I want to live in the plague without experiencing the plague.
Yeah,
and you're taking that away from me.
Exactly. You're reminding me of the modern plague. I want to think about the old-timey plague when it was romantic.
The people in my row, when Aaron Taylor Johnson, he has like the plague at one point, and you see it, like it's kind of revealed, and they're like, oh, or whatever, but like in like a positive, oh, endearing. But yeah, but for the most part, I think the people I was sat next to, even though they didn't sound like they loved it, I think they enjoyed themselves enough. And then coming out of the movie, like I had a friend that was like, "Did you see this movie?" And like that was like, "This is great. I'm so happy that like Eggers is getting like this big, And I think it goes to like our point of like, I think it shows me at least like how much marketing works.
Oh yeah.
Like, and it kind of, because I was not expecting people to come out and make Nosferatu the number 2 movie against fucking Disney Lion King movie.
Right.
The only reason Mufasa is out and got number 1 is because 1, it's a kid's movie. Mm-hmm. 2, the Lion King is been an identifiable property for 30 years.
Yeah.
So all those kids, their parents grew up on the Lion King.
Yeah.
And Bob Iger, CEO of Disney, has said straight up, it is cheaper and makes more money for us to keep making movies with like, established IPs than to risk making new IPs and make a loss. It's very Rob Peter to pay for Paul.
Right, yeah.
In my opinion, but I'm not a CEO.
I think like for the general public, probably gets tired of hearing about it, but for people who are passionate about movies and care about movies, there's a lot of cynicism to that stuff, and I know a lot of general public people are probably like, I liked the Marvel movies. Like,
yeah, and I don't care about if you like enjoyed that. That's one thing. I think if you are passionate about film and the film industry, you can see why Mufasa, Moana 2 getting as much money as they are is disappointing, but why Nosferatu doing as well as it did is exciting.
Yes, it's like movies are both art and entertainment, and they're a product. But they're art and entertainment, and I think a lot of people just see them as entertainment, and there are some people who also see it as art. And it's the reason why there's like some cynicism is like when you have something like Disney right now, and Disney in the past has made beautiful, entertaining art. But right now, Disney just represents this like corporate mentality of it is a product, and there's the only emphasis on the entertainment part. And something like Nosferatu, like that was made with the art as the intention.
Yes.
And
well, like no one has. Not many people have nostalgic memories about Nosferatu, the 1922 silent film.
Yeah.
Like Robert Egger said, most people that know about Nosferatu is because he was in a SpongeBob episode. You know, they just know him like generally as like it's one of the most famous.
You just know it from cultural references.
Yes, and
you've seen the image of Nosferatu.
Yeah, but like I haven't seen the silent film.
Yeah.
I should, but like
there was this place near us was playing it with like a person playing piano.
There was like a live score. I want to go to
we were going to go and then we didn't. It's one of my big regrets. That would have been so fun cool.
Yeah.
Anyways. That's ultimately the point is like, it's great to see like a movie that like, because movies can do both. They can be art, they can be entertainment, and they can be a successful product for the people who pay for it.
Yes.
And it's cool
seeing Nosferatu accomplish all three of those
Yeah.
is really cool and very exciting for film culture going forward. And to see how many people reacted positively to it. It's just been like so great, and it's like cool to like Nosferatu.
It's like cool to like Nosferatu.
It is like Charlie XCX is posing next to the poster, being like, "I love you, Lily Rose Depp," or whatever.
Well, yeah, and it's because there's been a ton of great, specifically horror movies this year, but just not a lot of them got seen because just people didn't know about them because of marketing and people don't go to the theater as much and all that shit.
Yeah.
So it's
and I think people would go to the theater if there was the marketing force that was behind Nosferatu. Imagine if it was there for like Strange Darling, or if it was there for Thelma or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not like they all need popcorn buckets, but they need the popcorn bucket mentality. Is what I'm saying.
Right, and that's expensive, and it's a whole thing.
It's expensive, and they don't know if that will pay off.
But the hope is that because these things wane, like when it comes to studio filmmaking, these things wane in terms of like how much creative control the artists have. And there's like we go through these phases where like the 70s was like a big like artist driven time period because the studios were financially fucked over from doing a bunch of overly expensive epics. Like I think Cleopatra's like the go-to example of like waste of money.
And like musicals were like they were starting to have diminishing returns.
Yes, the 50s and 60s and then that's when 70s it was like, okay, well, we fucked up so bad, we'll just give you money. And then there's a lot of amazing movies that came out of the 70s. And then you have 80s. This is going to upset a lot of people. There's a lot of great stuff that happened in the 80s, but 80s was a time where there was a lot of product in movies. But I think there was still great art made.
Yeah.
Like there was still, that was the birth of the big budget or the blockbuster.
Yeah.
And then like it's just we are currently at a time where studios are enforcing more of their opinions on the things because it's like
they know they are using psychology and certain things to get people into theaters instead of trusting the art and marketing the art itself.
And there's just so many and that's why now but it's started to fail. Like there's been successes, but there's been a lot of like big box office failures.
Yes, and it's starting to fail finally.
And it's starting to fail finally, and I think Nosferatu represents that with like The Northman was Eggers make a movie, but we're going to impose our notes and our opinions, and we're going to control the product a little bit, and it failed. Mm-hmm. And with Nosferatu, I don't know fucking how, but he got a deal where he had creative control, and it paid off. Mm-hmm. And it's the hope means like, okay, maybe that's going to encourage studios to do what A24 has been doing,
or Neon.
Yeah. There's a
lot of them.
The smaller distributors have been doing. There's a difference between a distributor and a studio. A24 and Neon are mostly distributors,
but sometimes they're both.
But they're not like studio like whatever. It doesn't matter. Hopefully that it'll encourage more of that.
Yeah. Well, and then I also like, it's hard not to, we are both very upset, I guess is probably not the upset. We are both very big non-believers in what Disney has done for copyright. Yeah. They have continued over and over time to abuse the copyright system.
Yes.
Which I think the general idea is once you make an IP, you are to like profit off of it during your life, and then pretty soon after, like 20 years after your death, it's supposed to go into public domain.
Yeah, I think it was originally just supposed to be like a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Which I think is fair. Like, yeah. You create something, you have a certain amount of time, whether that's your lifestyle or I think it should just be like you have 10 years where you own that thing.
Yeah. I don't know exactly what the best avenue is.
I think it was time-based because that's what they basically there was like a time junction of like how long that was.
Yeah.
And what Disney had been consistently doing was getting Congress, and this is all American copyright, was getting Congress to push back that limit. So like you create something and in 10 years it becomes public domain. Mm-hmm. So the big thing was like, oh shit, Mickey is coming up to be in public domain. Okay, change the law. You create something and for 30 years you own it before it goes into, okay, and then up to like 100 years, like, just because they didn't want to lose the ability to be the only ones to make money off of the properties that they had.
Yes.
They were pushing back copyright for everybody. And
we all suffer, and our art that is commodifiable suffers because of it.
Yeah.
And, we applaud people like Vera Drew who made the People's Joker and used her, I don't know, tenacity to, I don't know if that's the right word, but it feels right.
Sure, yeah.
It spiritually feels right. To make some, like the art that she wanted to make.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome. And not being afraid of copyright or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's paid off for her.
Yeah. And like that's what's conceptual. I get that people will probably look at like, okay, but like, when Winnie the Pooh went into public domain, someone just made some shitty horror movie. But like, it means that like something like The People's Joker, where you can take these characters, like these characters mean something culturally.
Yeah.
And you can take them and do something different. It's not just like, what does Warner Brothers, who's the current rights owner because they bought DC Comics, so they have the right to do with the Joker character what they get to distribute. Who gets to make a Joker movie?
Todd Phillips.
Todd Phillips gets to make one now.
And Union Buster, by the way.
Motherfucker.
Or anti-union.
Anti-union. At least in the 2008.
I guess not a union buster, but...
Yeah, 2008, he was anti-union. I don't know what his current stance is.
I'm skeptical.
I'm skeptical, too. Also, he was all like, you can't make comedies because wokeness, which what that means is that the studios, hey, there's not comedies anymore, and studios decided it's not worth it.
Yes.
So his little fucking baby reaction of, you can't make comedies because of wokeness, what that means is the studios said we're not paying for comedies. And instead of being he's a little fucking baby, like, okay, well, you probably made enough money off those shitty ass Hangover movies. Apologies if you like those movies.
Yeah.
You make your own comedy.
Yeah.
and get somebody to
I
distribute it.
saw at least 5 Hangover DVDs or Blu-rays at the 2 Goodwills we went to this week.
Right.
So not only did you make a bunch of money because that's when, people still bought physical media regularly.
Yeah, maybe he didn't get a lot of money off those movies. I'm sure he did. Finance your own comedy.
Yeah.
Don't go through the studio system.
Or go find a financier.
Yeah.
Some of the best movies that came out today, or this year, were financed by people who went to go find their own financiers. And they didn't ask the studios because the studios weren't going to help make their movies.
Yeah.
That's why some of the best movies now have 27 production credits before the movie starts.
Yeah.
Which it's like, hey, I will sit through as many production logos if I have to.
Fine.
If you made a artistic vision that, is at least a vision.
Yeah. Speaking of artistic visions.
Yes.
So that's how we spent our Christmas.
Yeah.
Watching
Nosferatu. I just want to say,
okay.
I'm just very happy for Nosferatu's success.
Yes.
To me, I hope that there's a lesson that marketing your movie means something, and we should market new visions, or at least really fucking old visions come to life.
Right.
It's been 100 years. It's fine.
Yeah, I think hopefully it means because ultimately the marketing it's expensive, and not the smaller distributors don't necessarily have as much money to.
No, and I hope this is inspiring people to go movies, I guess. And then also I want to make it as Moana 2 is one of the most successful animated sequels or something. It did it really well, I think. And in case this isn't common knowledge, I know this, and not everyone knows this. Moana 2 was a scrapped TV special.
Yeah,
what? That's the rumor.
It's the rumor. I don't know if that's completely confirmed or not. At least that's what it was going to be a show, I think. Or a series.
Basically, Disney saw a gap in the market that they could make money for a November Thanksgiving release. And they just took whatever they had available to them and they put it in there. And it did well because it's a property that people know. And it's just, I don't know, it's just really disappointing because we have confirmation of Bob Iger saying let's not invest in new ideas.
Yeah.
And we have confirmation of them saying, let's use nostalgia to basically play with people's emotions. And I guess that's disappointing, especially when on our New Year's Eve, we just saw a movie again that was in theaters at one point.
Yeah.
Which is Twilight. And I have so much to say about Twilight.
Yeah. So we specifically, it was again at the Last Picture House,
yes.
The theater that's inside the Boy.
I've been seeing rowdy screenings of Twilight.
Yeah.
There was I think the Varsity in Des Moines, and I've wanted to visit there. We just haven't gone to Des Moines in a long time. And I've been seeing these types of screenings around where interactive rowdy screenings.
Yeah.
And I was so excited that the Last Picture House was getting a rowdy screening of Twilight. Because if you are unaware, Twilight has been through a bit of a renaissance where I think there is the general basic timeline is when Twilight was, first movies were getting released and stuff. I think it came out in 2009-ish.
Yeah, something like that.
The first movie. And, you've heard the sentence, still a better love story than Twilight.
Yeah.
Twilight was so over the top, made fun of.
Right.
Not just because it was bad. I personally feel like there was more insidious reasons. It's because it was a very female-driven fan base. It's a lot of younger females too.
Right.
And there's consistently always if young women like something, we have to, and I think it's gotten better in the last 10 years ish, but we have to make fun and put down anything that women like en masse.
Yeah.
And that's been a thing since the fucking Beatles, you know?
Right, yeah.
we were watching a ContraPoints video. We haven't finished it all because it's like 3 hours long. But the beginning, like first chapter was about like how women have been criticized for reading the wrong things. They do the wrong things. They have vanity in like what they read, and they're always doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And it was like, and they're stupid, and you know, all these things.
Yeah. I mean, like everything you can look at anything if you grew up throughout history, I guess. But like people probably remember the time where romance novels was the big joke.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, it's embarrassing to read romance novels. Mm-hmm. But then there was never that like same thing when it came to like fucking nobody's like
Tom Clancy,
you're reading
like,
another weird spy movie or book where the guys the secret
spies,
agent spy,
you know?
and, yeah. Or like
not like in mass like that. That's not like I've never heard that as
like
a common
people
joke.
like people make a joke, but it's not like
it's not so like across the board,
right. And the same thing with movies. There is a ton of like
people demonize rom-coms all the time as if they have nothing special to offer at the table. As if they don't provide good context, like that, as if they're like, you know, it's just like stupid movies and they're awful, and the people who are in them and the people who watch them are just stupid, vapid, dumb, nothing people.
Right.
And I'm so much better than
right.
them.
But then like there's an action movie and like, well, that's actually very good.
Yeah, that's actually means something.
And I think like the perfect like Twilight's a great example of where which I think she talks about in the video, but like where there is Twilight plays into a certain fantasy.
Yes.
And that fantasy isn't necessarily a healthy thing.
Yeah.
But like that's an exciting fantasy. And people are so quick to say that media is bad
and dangerous.
But it's like, okay, but then you have I know time-wise John Wick does it. I can't think of any action movies from that time period, but like a John Wick, for example, or some kind of like action movie where it's
Jason Bourne,
where it's like, there's a fantasy to be like, I'm a guy who can jump off walls and kick people the best. I'm the best at punching people.
Yes.
And it's like,
I'm a big hero.
Yeah. And there's a fantasy in that. Like, there has always been the fantasy of, I was married, but then my wife got killed, and now I'm avenging my wife. Mm-hmm. And because I'm avenging my wife, it's okay that I'm murdering a bunch of people.
Yes.
And that is seen as like, well, and then if you say like, that's bad, it's like, oh, violence, and there's you treat it with the appropriateness of like, it's just a fucking movie. Nobody is gonna watch that movie and then go act out those violent things.
And it's like, and like if they do, it's not the movie's responsibility. Right. Like it's not. We don't have a moral obligation to censor ourselves in that way, you know.
But if it's a story that evolves around like, oh, she's in love with a bad boy.
Yeah, she's love and like,
oh, we got to do something because women are so dumb. They'll go out and if a young girl sees a vampire in her school, she'll try to date him because of this book, and that's dangerous.
Well, it's also like, and people also make fun of it because it comes from like it's Mormon,
right?
And it's text, which I can understand the like apprehension, but also I think honestly looking back to like, and there are some more deeper Mormon lore the further the books go along. But like
you're talking about
let's not get into it. But if we break down the basic dynamic of, and there's a couple basic dynamics going on, is one, this, Edward, dangerous, and he, like being in love with someone who is, a predator. And they say that in the movie, they equate him to a lion. He calls himself a predator in terms of being a vampire because he has to prey on humans or animals or whatever. And in so there's that dynamic of, I'm just powerless in the situation. And growing up, at least in a Christian evangelical, I grew up in purity culture. Yeah. And I wasn't super into the Twilight books personally, but I never minded them. I was always do your thing, you know?
Right, yeah.
Not that I had the chance to say that to anyone, but like, I would go see them. I like read the first book and stuff.
Sure.
I'm just like personally not the biggest fantasy person.
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down
Yeah.
to. But like, I, support your right to have those fantasy dreams.
Mm-hmm.
But having the dream of like, I'm like being in a purity culture and feeling like, well, I have so much responsibility to remain pure, whatever that means. But if someone else does it, that's not my fault,
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Like I wasn't necessarily wanting it.
Right.
That goes with Nosferatu. It's the similar dynamic. It's literally the same dynamic of I'm a sexual being, but I'm not allowed to be sexual. If there was just this vampire who took advantage of me, then that would be fine.
Right, yeah. Which is, that's like the Dracula story. Like
yes. It's 100% and that's, Twilight is very similar in that. But it relates to, that Mormon or like purity culture thing that is pervasive to this day. Mm-hmm. Not as bad as when I was growing up or whatever. I hope. There's also the idea of like, I'm the only one that can tame this vampire.
Yeah.
Like, so there's like power in that too.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are in those powerless situations in a church, like, and this is the same in Nosferatu as well.
Yeah.
Helen, I think is it Helen or Ellen? I couldn't tell. I think it's Helen.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Main character, Kristen Stewart, Helen, whatever. They're the only ones that have power to do something in this situation.
Wait,
They're
you're talking about, the main character in Twilight?
Isabella
Oh, yeah.
and the main character in Nosferatu, Helen.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So both of them, they are both the only ones that have power to do something about the situation.
Right.
Isabella is the only one that can control Edward. Mm-hmm. Like, even though he wants to like kill her and have her blood, his love for her and her, like, I guess her scent of lilacs or whatever is so powerful, like that he's able to contain himself and control himself. There is a desire in that, and that's literally the same thing. Sex with me will stop the plague.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
There is, and in like the later books, having the triangle of like, how many people try to ask Bella out in the first movie?
It's nonstop.
Yeah, they are all so attracted to her, and she's like, "Wait, what's going on? I'm just like an average girl."
Yeah,
and that's very funny because the way it comes out is a little awkward.
Right.
But when you're a teenager, you don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, right. You're just watching one like, oh, imagine
if I had all this attention. Yeah. Because when you're a teenager. And like, I think that's just a personhood thing where like, what if everyone loved me? That would be so great. I feel most people don't feel like they have enough love in their lives. Yeah. Especially a teenage girl, especially when the world is shouting at them that they're stupid.
Right.
What if instead in this fantasy, the world, everyone's asking me out. Mm-hmm. Everyone loves me. Everyone wants to be my friend. And I'm just so cool about it, you know?
Yeah. And then there's like this super cool, sexy group.
Yes.
And one of them is like, don't even bother with him.
Yeah.
But then he
loves you.
At first, you think he just thinks you're stinky. But then he actually loves you.
So my point being is that if we take down the basic dynamics of Twilight, they're pretty much the same as Nosferatu.
Yeah.
But, in practice, Twilight, the books, and more so the movie, is a little awkward. Sure. I think that's more almost because the movie itself is awkward and some of the dialogue is awkward. But like, I say like give fucking 14-year-olds a break, Right. Okay, you never liked anything cringy in your whole life. So what's nice about the rowdy screenings is that it's people who are adults now that may have loved these books or continued to love these books, or love these books as, children, teenagers or whatever, or like adult women too. Yeah. But I'm relating it to people like me who are like, that might have been cringy, but I take ownership of it.
Right, yeah.
You know? And I think that's so fucking cool.
Yeah, it's great.
And that's why I love the Twilight Renaissance. And I love people being like, fuck it. I'm going to wear this because I'm a grown person. You can't hurt me for being like, for liking this.
Right.
I will like this out of spite for how you treated me almost.
Hell yeah.
And maybe not everyone's thinking about it this deeply.
Right, yeah.
But like, you know, our theater was laughing at most of the movie while appreciating when I was 14, I thought this was the best fucking thing in the world.
There was lots of people who were quoting along with it. Like they know it so well.
Well, and a lot of people knew the big quotes and like there would be like tension right before like
the
he would
big
say,
moment.
Say it. What year are you? A vampire, and everyone cheered. You know?
I love that was one of my favorite parts was the say it because when she's like,
but it's a famous scene,
right? And just like I love people like going like fucking say it.
There was one girl in the row behind us, and she was carrying the whole thing because I think our theater. I wish it was almost a little rowdier. I think they didn't advertise the rowdiness. They didn't have an introduction like they usually do.
I think they should have. Yeah, they usually have an introduction, and they were also like fucking busy.
They were so busy.
But a lot of times they'll have introduction for these because they did one for The Room.
Yes.
They do a lot of special events there.
They've done them for like random movies too. It was a little disappointing. I wish they did an introduction.
I think they should have done extra,
and like warmed people up.
Yeah, like hey, just so you know, this is the rowdy screening, so get crazy.
I would have loved if there was almost like an opener for the movie.
Right,
like I think there should have been like a comedian or a drag queen or like someone like Mary, if you're listening to this, probably not. She would have been great at like, let's do a little PowerPoint and like,
be like,
kind of introduce the concept of it. Cause it was just said rowdy, but it was like, it wasn't, I don't think advertised as, and so I think people were a little anxious. Some people went to that screening we heard, and were like, what the fuck's going on? Why are people yelling during the movie?
Right? And it was like their first time seeing it.
And and then I'm like, oh, you went to the wrong screening.
That's a cool person who's like, I'm going to spend my year finally watching Twilight in theater.
Wait, why is everyone yelling?
What's happening? Oh my God.
But I was hoping it would be a little bit rowdier.
Yeah, I think there was, especially at the beginning, a little awkwardness. People didn't quite know.
I started clapping right away to help, and I think it helped.
Yeah, I think it helped. I think you broke the tension.
A little bit.
Because I think it was like when Edward showed up or something.
Yeah, well, and then I started like, I clapped for the title screen.
Yeah.
And there was just different times, like at the beginning, where I'm like, it doesn't feel like people are going to react loud enough.
That's what we want. We want the rowdy screening.
And like, there needs to be a little bit more maybe rules and there's those times in the movie too. Yeah. But I was hoping that there would be a standing ovation at the end, but everyone just fucking left. So I felt a little embarrassed by that.
I think it doesn't help that it's one of those movies where it ends, but then it goes into like a montage of this actor played this person.
Yeah.
Which is like such a weird choice for movies in general.
I just, there was a lady in the row behind us and she was carrying it. Cause like the thing was like, oh, I didn't know that Stephanie Meyer had a cameo in this movie. Right. And she called it out right away. And I was like, oh, thank God.
Herself.
Yeah. Whoever you are, you win New Year's Eve, darling. Title.
You did best at rowdy Twilight screening.
You did the best of the Twilight screening. That would be great too. And I hope the Last Picture House does more like interactive movie. Yeah. Like I would love to have hosts for it and stuff, you know?
Well, I think because we've gone to, they do re-screenings in the summer because they have like a outside roof theater.
Yeah.
Which I think it seems like they were successful. They were selling out constantly.
Oh yeah. You would have to buy yours like as soon as they announced it if you wanted a ticket.
And then like The Room sold out or sold out to the point where they had to do a second screening.
Yes.
The Thing, they played The Thing for just because it's winter. Like they did a lot of
that, yeah.
And I think like especially interactive things. But like it feels like in theater, we were talked about with Nosferatu, like IMAX has been putting out things. It feels like there's a sense of like, hey, we can just play movies that already exist.
Yes, when Interstellar went in IMAX, it became top 10 on Letterboxd. Because it did really well.
A lot of the reason, understandably, why people don't go to movies is it's very expensive and it's a gamble if you don't know what the movie is.
Yes.
And if you're like, oh, I know I like that movie, or I know about that movie, I've heard people like that movie, I've always wanted to see it. to see it in a theater is cool. It's like,
Yes.
oh, it's a great opportunity to see it in a theater. Because I'm sorry, seeing a movie in a theater, it's a better experience.
Yeah.
And especially, but then on top of that, like the fun kind of rowdy, it's like something that's like, this is what a theater can provide that a streaming service at home can't.
Yes.
Like you're in a crowd with people and
Let's
there's
make
an
this a
energy.
party. Yeah.
We're all having fun. Like laughing in a big group is such a fucking fun thing.
Yes.
And
the friends we went with after the screen, they're like, that was so great.
Yeah.
I would love to do that again. And I don't think they necessarily knew that, like they haven't been to a room screen.
like things like that
before.
happen. Yeah. Cause like I hope that I want to, if you're listening to this and you agree, please also send letters or emails to the Last Picture Shows. Cause I want them to do the whole series.
Yes.
Like, don't wait till next New Year's. Let's go to the next one now.
Let's do
get
New
the
Moon.
It's werewolf time, goddammit.
Someone was like, wait, no Team Jacob here?
When Jacob
Jacob's not really in the first movie a ton.
when Jacob showed up, nobody applauded.
And someone called us out on it, and it was great.
I think the character who got the biggest response was the
Carlisle.
Yeah, the Carlisle.
he
He
was,
like,
I love,
such a great.
Once again, the queen in the row behind us. She
Yeah.
was like, "That's my doctor."
Yeah, it is because like he has a great entrance too because he like busts through the hospital door.
Oh, yeah.
Comes in. I hope they do more of those, and I hope that specifically Twilight, but other just because there's tons of like, because like one of the people we saw it with, they mentioned something along the lines of how like this is the new generation's Rocky Horror.
Yes.
But it's like there's a lot of like movies like that where it's like you enjoy the movie in a different way.
Yes.
Where it's like, because like Twilight, it's not like everyone was there to hate Twilight. We were all there like.
No, we like loved it while recognizing its flaws.
Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, and there's like, because it's like you can have when you're it didn't apply to me. I was grown and not a lady when it came out.
Yeah.
And well, I shouldn't say not a lady. It wasn't my thing, but there's so much fun stuff that's not making fun of it, but just weird choices. Where like when
there's like a lot of weird, like almost comedy shots in the movie, and the dialogue's very stilted, and the voice that Robert Pattinson uses for Edward is very strange.
Like there's the famous scene with the diamonds where he's like,
"Oh yeah,
I'm gonna bring you, cause I'm gonna show you what I really am.
I'm a monster."
Yeah, I'm a monster, and he's just glistening with glowy diamonds in the sun.
Yes,
and she's like appropriately like, "You're beautiful," and he's like, "This is the skin of a killer, Bella." Like that's funny.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, that's just funny. And the way it's shot is funny. But then even funnier to me, at least after that, is then they go deeper in the forest, have this conversation, and they're talking about it. And he just is in trees. Like, he's just squatting in tree branches.
Yes.
Like a little owl or something.
There's so many little choices that are very funny. And we can appreciate that as children, or younger us, 10 years ago us, 15 years ago us.
Sure.
We shouldn't have been like treated that way.
Yeah.
While saying like, yeah, it's bad.
Right.
You didn't have to give us such a hard time about it.
Both can be true.
Yeah.
But yeah, also very great complimentary movies. It was a great way to end that year and start the new year.
Yes. I'm so excited for the filmmaking to come and films to come at the Last Picture House. I hope they do more events like that. Very excited. And I also think watching movies in ways that it shows that movies can be enjoyed more than one way.
Right. Yeah.
And because I think people sometimes, not everyone, but some people have a very narrow view of how a movie is to be enjoyed.
Yeah.
And that's why things like The Room are a great starter of like, you can enjoy this, but then also not enjoy it in a way where like, this was a great time, you know?
When we saw The Room, it was...
That was a great viewing.
It was with Greg Sestero. If you don't know, he's Mark in the movie. And he's been doing things where he does this, but he was like, does some Q&A before and after. But he was talking about that topic of enjoying movies. And his example was he loves The Revenant.
Yeah.
One of his favorite movies. He will always remember seeing it in theater. Fucking loved it. But that scene where Tommy comes in on the birthday party and says, Good job on the birthday party, Lisa. You invited all my friends. Good thinking. Like, there's just something about that that's so enjoyable. And it's like, yeah, you can look at it in terms of just like, that's bad dialogue.
Yeah.
It's a bad ADR. It doesn't make sense. No, humans don't talk like that. All of that's true, but it's compelling as hell to fucking watch. And he's like, I can watch that. I've seen that hundreds of times and it's still enjoyable. I don't know if I could watch The Reverend that many times.
Yes. And I think things like this are good for films because it gives people a more dynamic way of looking at film and enjoying art.
Right, yeah.
And like not everything's so black and white.
Yeah.
Things are best lived in gray, which is like the color scale of Nosferatu in theaters now. Okay, I got to wrap this up. We're going to go to the movies. Also, I have to go to the bathroom. Thank you for listening to this podcast. I'll see you later.
Bye.